This episode of Ratified is brought to you by Decathlon. With equipment for over 70 sports, check them out online on decathlon.ie or better yet, visit one of their stores in Dublin or Limerick. Practice any sport you love. We've got all the gear to keep you going. Are you ready to play? Hello and welcome to Ratified with myself, Paddy Andrews, Marc O'Shea, Richie Hogan and the great Bubbles O'Dwyer. Today's show is brought to you by Decathlon and our first topic for discussion is sporting idols, lads. Bubbles, who's your sporting idol?
It's a tough one, all right, but I suppose I'd probably have to go with Owen Kelly from Tipperary, not Owen Kelly of Watford now. Two completely different players, but I suppose Owen growing up, when I was growing up, he would have been in my house as a young lad. He was good friends with my brother. He went to school in the school that I went to in my town. So, and just the way that he played for Tipperary and the way, I suppose between 2004 maybe and 2008, he probably carried that tip team on his own for a lot of it. Like, and he's just an unbelievable hurler, unbelievable player.
Was he there in 01 when Tip won? He was on was he on the squad or?
He was on the squad. He was the sub goalkeeper. He was named as a sub goalkeeper, but the number 16 jersey was an outfield jersey.
Right.
So he came on in the semi-final and he came on in the final as well.
That's 2000.
Oh, that's 2000. Oh yeah, sorry.
He's nearly player of the year in 2001.
In 2001 he started.
He's still a minor.
Jesus.
Yeah. So like
longevity, incredible.
He was unbelievable. But when he was 14, 15, he was snapped up by St. Kieran's down in Kilkenny to go down and hurl down there.
To learn how to play hurling.
To keep these lads separate here, Marc. Jeez. Really? You went to Kieran's?
He went to St. Kieran's
in third year.
Into third year. So he was huge. He was huge in Kilkenny as well. You go into Kieran's College. He left the year before I came in, but they won. Look, they win the Crow Cup almost every year now.
Yeah.
Like, so it's a little bit different. But back then it was really, really difficult championship to win, and they hadn't won it for a few years. And he came in, and he was the main man. But they were still talking about Owen Kelly for years.
Really?
When I went there in my first couple of years, and he had been gone, and he was there amongst Tommy Welch, Jackie Turner.
That's the transfer market fit.
Brian Hogan.
It was.
Is it true that, say, when he started off in the league, that he'd wear a tight pair of shorts, 36, and then come
black bag under the jersey?
He'd wear the 38 pair of shorts, and you'd say, "Geez, isn't your man? Isn't he trimmed down big time?"
Wearing an extra tight jersey and shorts and stuff. Yeah, but I don't know how true that is now. I wouldn't be looking into his gear bag to see what size his shorts are, but. No, but like anything, I suppose you've gone out training, and like in the winter you'd be wearing all your wet gear and stuff. Like, but come April and May, like Kelly would be still going out in his winter overalls, like So
it was Ger Brennan, very similar with Dublin as well. Like,
he was an unbelievable hurler. Like even back what age was he when he went to Kieran's? 15, 16. Like you could see that he was. I think he was a minor at 14 as well. Like he was unbelievable back then. Just growing up, just the way that he played, he was unbelievable.
It's hard, isn't it, as well, that those underage superstars, not all of them come through and have, Clifford in the football side of things, Kelly.
Makes it even harder for me then as well, because he lives down the road at our rival club, Mullinahone, as well, but he was unbelievable, and he was an unbelievable mentor for me when I came in then as well, he looked after me, but he was absolutely unbelievable. I know Richie would have played against me a lot, and he was unbelievable for Tipperary.
He was the man.
He was, yeah. Now, by the time I got in, he's a fella who really looked like he was struggling injury-wise very early. But he was a guy who was just born to play hurling. His touch, his strike was incredible. He could shoot off either hand. And now, since the game has gone on, we've seen a few more players like that. Yeah. But he was almost like the original version.
Probably should have played for Kilkenny, like.
Yeah, maybe. I'd say give him a few years and.
He got a few minutes off the bench.
Disowned, but yeah, he could have.
He would have taken him, like.
Well, he was one of the most skillful hurlers I've ever played against. But he was an absolute dog, like.
Have to be.
He's a dog, like inside and training in the winter, like the ground to be wet, like a ball comes in. If he doesn't win the first time, he'd stamp the ball into the ground so that no one can raise it up, and he'd just go around digging fellas, just trying to create rows, like the referee, in training games and stuff like that. The manager or coach, whatever, wouldn't blow the whistle. Like, the ball is stuck in the ground. He's
let it flow.
He's kicking lads. He's doing everything, and that just brought everyone else to a different level then as well,
He's nearly my sporting idol now, listening to that. Marc, if you're moving on to you, and caveat, you can't pick a family member.
Okay.
Come on, usually.
Well, I wasn't going to pick a family member.
Who's your sporting idol outside of the family?
Outside of the O'Shea family, I would have to say Morris Fitzgerald. He was insane.
Doesn't have to be Kerry either.
Doesn't have to be Kerry, yeah.
But Morris Fitz.
Morris Fitz was just, you look, when I was growing up, you had the northern teams are really coming.
Yeah.
Kerry were really poor. You had...
Just through the 90s.
Yeah, 80s, late 80s. You had Meath winning All-Irelands. You had Cork winning All-Irelands. So I actually grew up watching a lot of the Cork team, you know, the likes of Stephen O'Brien, these fellas. Larry Tompkins was just an incredible footballer. But for Kerry, when they were so poor, Morris Fitz was just like standout player every day, and like got onto the team when he was 18. And I remember going, say, Kerry hadn't been in an All-Ireland for 11 years, and then they get to an All-Ireland in 1997. And I think probably the most difficult skill for a Gaelic footballer is to kick the ball off the ground with both feet, to be able to do that with both feet. And in the final against Mayo in 97, in the Hogan stand, that ball that he kicked over the bar with the left leg off the ground was just incredible. And I think you look at, say, I mean, there isn't many All-Ireland finals that you actually call the Morris Fitzgerald final. There's an old Kerry footballer, his name is Sean Murphy now, he just lives up the road from me. They called the Sean Murphy final 1959, but there are many finals. Pádraig Joyce maybe 2001 against Meath.
Yeah.
Like he was incredible that day.
Second half.
Yeah, second half, yeah. You know, I was at that game and, you know, Darren Fay was doing a great job in the first half. Second half, he was insane, but Morris could just do everything and he could play anywhere. He could play midfield, he could play anywhere in the forwards. And then his last year, my first year on the panel, I remember getting into the lift with him.
Jeez, you're old enough.
Yeah. Who is? I am. But I remember getting into the lift with Morris and I just said, geez, I'm inside in the lift with Morris Fitzgerald and going down and never got to play with him. Marked him once or twice, club level, but and he just had the ability, just, you know, when he won the ball, just to just push you off, use the time to put that ball over the bar. Incredible.
And his gas, Paddy wouldn't play him then at the end, would he? Nothing on that.
Paddy would play him. Paddy would play him. But
2000, yeah.
2000, yeah. He was coming off the bench in 2000.
Goal against Armagh.
Yeah.
Semi-final.
And like, what a player to be able to bring off the bench.
Yeah.
And I think he was breaking down in training that year. I'm not sure. Definitely in 2001, he was breaking down. He played against us, the Gaeltacht South Kerry, and he got a bad injury, but he was breaking down in those games. But yeah, I mean, I feel if we had him in 2002, we definitely would have pushed on, you know. But look,
The Armagh final.
yeah,
What year was it? He kicked the sideline in Thurles.
2001.
2001, yeah.
Best score of all time, still, isn't it?
And I mean, like, if you look at Tommy Carr, he's like in his ear.
In his
In his ear.
He
Was
not
in
proven.
his ear.
That's not proven.
Poor tactics from the Dubs. In his ear.
Paddy was
allegedly.
in front of him.
And Morris kicks the ball over the bar and doesn't even react, just runs back out into his position. And I think if you look back at that game, that we're talking about in Thurles, there's a man, Morris comes off the bench, and there's a fine, dirty footballer from Dublin who starts hitting Morris.
I didn't see that.
I think he's a relation to a fella across the table from me here, Paddy Andrews. But
welcoming me in.
yeah, welcoming me. Yeah, that's one word to describe it.
I was there that day. Incredible, wasn't it? Yeah.
I was
Special moment. Even
yeah.
for Dub, it was, in terms of scale and pressure, everything.
It was
an iconic
unreal. But
moment, yeah.
that day I was sitting next to my dad. God be good to him. But Tomas was marking Senan Connell, and Senan was going for a ball, and Tomas just pulled his leg across, absolutely capsized Senan Connell. Got sent off anyway.
You unlike Tomas as well. No?
Yeah. Got sent off, and I was on the extended panel. I'd say within 2 minutes, I said to my father, I said, Jesus, I'll be in the next day for the semi-final.
Delighted, like.
My father was
Ruthless.
disgusted with me. But I was in the next day for the semi-final, yeah.
Morris Fitz. So Richie, your side. You've played with some legends.
Yeah,
Legend yourself.
spoiled for choice. And we like Kilkenny, similar to Kerry. Literally so
Traditionally, yeah.
many players over the years. Go back even as far as the likes of Eddie Kerr in the 50s, 60s, and 70s, and like we know Eddie Kerr as a guy who he works for the Kilkenny Supporters Club, collecting money for the players now.
Incredible,
like
yeah.
had like the humility of a man who's just won so much and been so incredible and such a superstar in his time. Like, I mean, met Muhammad Ali when he came here to box in Croke Park, and but the one for me was probably Henry Shefflin. I think was elevated, I think, to a status above the rest of the players.
What was that, Richie? Because you guys, loads of All Irelands each, incredible players. But what put Henry different from maybe the other guys?
So I think definitely in our game, you always kind of gravitate towards maybe that he was the free taker for a start, right? So obviously he's getting a lot of scores and he features in the game a huge amount. And there's more scoreable frees in hurling than there is in Gaelic football. So he's always there and he's always under pressure, you know. So if you're the free taker in hurling, you probably are always about to get the first score of the game, which there's huge pressure under that. And also I think he played a lot at centre forward in a time when puck outs were going long. It needed to be 1.5 forward line. And he was in the middle of the action all the time. And he's such a big presence and obviously such a magnificent hurler that it felt like he was the leader within that team, certainly from the outside looking in. Now, when I got in and played with him, you kind of realize that actually, you know, yes, he's a fantastic leader, but he wasn't the only one. And leadership had different types of styles, and you know, revealed itself in different types of ways inside and outside of the dressing room.
Quieter in the dressing room? His leadership was nearly on the pitch, or was he a big talker?
No, he was very vocal. Yeah, he was very vocal, and I would say he was also very careful. He would always choose his words wisely. He would rarely say anything below the belt about the opposition. He would always conduct himself brilliantly. He was very much on brand, if you like, of what you see of Henry outside. He's very much like that inside as well, and incredibly passionate. So you always got the sense with Shefflin that the game and the history around the game meant a huge amount to him. He wasn't just coming in, hurling for the day that was in it and trying his best and winning and enjoying himself and away he go and do something else. You always got that he was like, you know, scoring records were important to him. Winning All Irelands was important to him. Winning 5 in a row or 3 in a row. Not for himself, but when the opportunity was there, you know, he really went to go after it.
Talk us through the year that you were going for the 5 and that he did his cruciate.
Yeah.
And like, you know, the two boys did their cruciates, and he was, the two boys were on the field and they were coming back. Like, how was training in the lead up to that? Because like all eyes were obviously, and Tip were gunning for you, but all eyes were on Kilkenny, how the two boys would hold up. Yeah.
And like this adds to even what I was talking about. I think when we look further back at our own idols, we sometimes have a tinted view on it. Like everything was great back then. But even you think of things like that. So he does his cruciate in an All Ireland semi-final. Yeah. John Tennyson wasn't on the team at all that season, and done his cruciate I think 3 weeks before that in training. John Tennyson was wrote off for the year, and all of a sudden Henry did his cruciate in the semi-final, and John Tennyson now has a chance of playing as well. Like, it was incredible because, you know, they were going to do everything they could to get them back, but guy down in Limerick said he had this magical cure that he could bring. Yeah, and like clearly it didn't work out. We were told nothing, so we went and we trained.
And did they train? No.
They didn't train. We didn't see them. They were gone for 3 or 4 weeks. They never arrived at any training session.
There weren't any training session.
They were at no training session until the week before. We were told, oh, the two boys are actually not too bad, and they're going to come in and they're going to try and play. They're going to try and play in a kind of our last game, and our training sessions were open. Now I don't know what the figure was, but someone said there was 11,000 at the training session when he arrived. Yeah, and it was huge.
And was it a boost for you guys? Must have been. Henry's back, or was there a fear maybe going, is that possible?
Like, we're not stupid, you know.
Yeah.
Like,
that's out there.
There was like, it was I felt it was a small bit of a distraction.
It must have been, because I mean, you're there in Kilkenny, you're going to the shop, whatever, people are asking you the whole time, what's the story?
But it suited Tip then as well, because of course, like after the year before, and then Tip were back again after reaching it again, like, and they hadn't reached too many finals, like 2 in a row or whatever it was, like, and that took a lot of pressure off Tip as well, that the fact that there was 10,000 down a train in Kilkenny, like, you know.
Yeah, you were able to go under the radar. And like we were blown away that day in
Lar.
every aspect of the game. Lar especially, yeah, but not just Lar, like other players were.
All over the pitch. Like.
All over the pitch. Like I even think of Noel McGrath and the goal he got. You know, you think about it, he was probably 20 years old or 21 years old. You forget how young he was, and he, you know, he sprints through the middle just to get a touch to a ball to get it in over the line, like a scrappy goal, and that's kind of really how it kind of reveals itself on the pitch. You know, he's playing centre forward. He gets a scrappy goal by just sprinting 40 yards to get on the end of something.
The All Ireland final, we've been fortunate to play in them. Like by hook or by crook, you want to be on that pitch.
Yeah.
You will take disregard
If I
for
get-
body. You
but
want to just be out there. See Peter Canavan, obvious example.
Yeah.
We had it loads of times. Keane O'Sullivan, very similar.
Yeah.
Like the Thursday night before the match, nowhere to be seen. It was no way
But-
this guy is playing. But you do anything to be out there.
I
It is
think the
pinnacle.
distraction, though, is definitely something that it affects the players because 0-8, Paul Galvin, the incident in Killarney where
Paddy
there
Russell
was a fly on Paddy Russell's.
was just getting it off.
He was just getting the fly off. But like he was gone for the whole year, and the talk then was he was back for the All Ireland, and the distraction, players being asked, is Paul going to play? Is Paul going to start? All this must have been the same in Kilkenny, do you know? And
Yeah,
that's
and,
tough.
Yeah, and I agree. For us, it was less of a distraction. We were always used to, and there was the 5 in a row as well. So it wasn't just the 2 boys are gone, or because Brian Hogan had broken his finger in the semi-final, and that's how John Tennyson had got back in. And it wasn't just about that. It was more about the distraction of, well, is he going to play? Is he not going to play? If he's not going to play, who are we lining up instead? Because you're missing your centre back and your centre forward.
Yeah.
You know, they're 2 big positions. And is John Tennyson, is he going to be okay to play at centre back? Is he not going to be okay? And it was more about the training sessions and the preparation for games and the certainty around that. We were very good and very solid at keeping away the distractions from outside, and we would get on with, because we were used to having open training sessions. Now it was closed after that, but we were used to regularly having 1,500 at training sessions, and we almost, we almost prided ourselves on it. So, like, we would love if we saw opposition managers or selectors up in the stand. We'd love it because there was a sense of, we'll show you what we're doing. Now go try and beat us. That was the attitude, and it was great. And we'd never name a dummy team, and we'd know that lads would be targeting, you know, Eddie Brennan's named number 15, and they're going to put someone in. Grand, fine, do whatever you want. Our team is named 1 to 15, and this is, and you got a great sense of. Got a great sense of invincibility out of that, and it was huge. But the distraction came for our preparation, like who's going to be in, who's not going to be in. Like Michael Rice, who had played fantastic in the semi-final, he was an all-star from the previous year, and he got an all-star the year after. Like he had to come in after 10 minutes, but he was flying it, and maybe could have played or should have played or whatever. And then he has to come in after 10 minutes, and the whole thing was kind of
just a different.
Yeah, it didn't. It wasn't ideal. It'd be a stretch to mark it as an excuse, but it wasn't ideal.
Didn't help.
Yeah.
Did you see then, like the standing that Henry had in the game, like when he did get injured, like, you know, Tip and Kilkenny, like massive rivalry, like, but the respect, like Tip fans standing up, like clapping at the field, like, you know, like he just goes to show like how unbelievable of a hurler he was, like, you know.
We've stayed very close to our own sports. If we were to say outside of your own sports, who would be an idol?
I'd say probably Paul O'Connell.
Oh yeah.
From like I'd follow the rugby, and I'd follow it fairly closely, like, and I
Big
go to a
monster
lot of
man.
the games. Big monster man.
Yeah.
Go to a lot of the Irish games as well. But I suppose you would have saw, like, I was in a young, like back in 2004 and 5, that when Paul O'Connell really started getting into the grips of the Ireland team, like, but you know, his mentality, like, and just the way that he spoke and the way that he played the game, like, and like the way that everyone else looked up to him and stuff. Like, you see, I know it's very easy now to go back on YouTube and look at videos, like, but you see the game that they're playing against England in Croke Park, like, and the way that he spoke in the dressing room beforehand, like, you know, it's just, it's kind of make the hairs in the back of your neck stand up kind of thing, like, you know. So he was,
Put the fear of God into you.
yeah, that's the one, yeah, the fear of God into you.
20 years ago, lads. Gee.
You know, like, and the standing that he's held by everyone else, like, you know, the Lions and all that sort of stuff.
Outside of Munster
Yeah.
and Ireland, he has that.
He's huge, like, you know, to come into Munster and Ireland, where at the time Munster, I suppose, were the dominant team, but as a young lad, like, he catapulted himself in, like, and he stayed there for
Did you ever meet him?
15 years. Met him a couple of times, yeah.
He's all right. Never meet your hero.
Looking up. Never meet your heroes. I considered Owen Kelly was in my house a good couple of times now. No, yes, sound man, but like he was huge for Munster and Ireland.
Yeah, icon.
Yeah, for me, obviously,
No one from Kerry. At least go outside Kerry.
come here now. Lowry was
Jane Lowry.
What he's been doing in the last few years is incredible. Like, you know, and
Reach the top of that sport.
but like
incredible.
he just never forgets where he comes from. Like he's just. I think I saw some tweet there lately that like Offaly's number one, you know, and Offaly are flying now as well. He never forgets where he comes from, and even the celebrations when he won the Open, coming back to Offaly, like just incredible. And he loves the GA, but he's a serious golfer. But Roy Keane is another fella for me. Just like I obviously follow Man United, but I remember around the time where there was like talk about him when he was at Forest. And then he made the move to Man United. Never actually got to see him play, but
no Hurling games or anything.
No, never got. I drive sunny southwest.
Why would you leave?
Take me 6 hours to go to Dublin, Paddy. But
back then he couldn't get a flight.
Yeah. But so he was just incredible. Actually got to meet him last year or 2 years ago.
But he's similar to Paul O'Connell, that kind of leadership. You know, when you play sport, you look at guys like that.
Yeah, I
like him though, because like Paul O'Connell came from a normal background, I'd say, but Roy Keane like came from, and he says himself, he came from Mayfield, like, you know,
Mayfield,
he had nothing, like, you know, and
but
he was a boxer and he changed.
Yeah,
like,
so. He played all sports.
Yeah,
he played football, hurling, soccer, or
key for kids, lads.
It is, yeah, but you know,
now the video of him down here trying to poke the ball over the bar wouldn't give
it's all right.
40 years later.
He's got to come for you. He's got to come for you on that. Like.
The big thing about him, you see him on the Sky Sports, and
it's great.
He's all these cliches, but the one thing he always when he was playing, he was never asked his teammates to do something that he wouldn't do himself. He always put his body on the line, and like his analysis is brilliant. You know, he doesn't go into the detail that Gary Neville or Jamie Carragher goes into, but like
But as a player, like he was just completely authentic. Like there was nothing fabricated about it. Like you see that and there's a couple of clips of Vinnie Jones playing for Wimbledon and he goes in on Cantona and Cantona jumps up. But he goes in on Roy Keane 3 or 4 times in that game, and Keane just jumps up and brushes it off.
Yeah.
And like, he gets in a few scuffles himself, but you always got the sense on the pitch that he was just absolutely being himself. Like there was no, I'm concerned about what's going on up there. There was no, I'm concerned about my boots, or I'm looking at this, I'm looking at that. It was just, the game was just so simple for him.
The tunnel incident, Richie, was just like, it was pure like
box office.
It was box office.
Yeah, but when you actually hear the story behind that, like, just shows what Roy Keane was about. Like, Patrick Vieira went for Gary Neville when he was on his own.
Yeah.
Like he like Richie said, he didn't care. Like I'm standing up for my teammate. Like you won't do it to me, kind of a.
I know. But it's great to see them afterwards, then inside in the studio together, himself and Patrick Vieira having the banter. Like it's, you know.
But it's like that credibility he has now. We can say that he can be quite cutting as a pundit and stuff, but he's backed it up. He's lived it.
Oh, he did.
Like, but his status in the UK as well is astronomical.
Yeah.
Like, if you think of how good that Manchester United team was, or how good the Liverpool team of the 80s was, for him to be the undisputed leader that they speak about, and think of all of the people that came through that he probably offended, and you know, and they still say, "Oh, do you know what? Like, he was just the best leader we had." And, you know, and just he didn't care. It was about the team. It was about delivering, and like to be the main leader of that particular incredible
that
team.
era, like,
just goes to show for an Irish player, which is not used to it.
It is, and no different to Lowry. Roy didn't forget his roots either. You know, you talk about Rockmount, you talk about Cove. Like, he goes regularly back to those games, watching the boys play, and you know.
He'll be here in Croke Park supporting the
he does.
footballers as well. I've heard him. He's an icon. Richie, are you back? And Roy Keane as well, or have you anyone else?
Yeah, like, and we're probably all picking from the same pool, and there's a tendency to kind of go towards your Irish guys. You know, and it just goes to show, like, you know, your idols are really your local.
Yeah,
your local.
There's a connection.
You know, there is a like. I absolutely loved Tiger and Pete Sampras and all of the guys who were at the
Yeah.
top of the game, individual sports. But I really loved Brian O'Driscoll as a player as well. Two reasons. He was incredibly talented, obviously, and was known for his talent. But what he became then was this like a pillar of the Irish defence almost. You know, his incredible tackling. But then he just to be named captain at such a young age. I think he was 23 or 24 maybe. As
captain of the Lions as well.
Of course. Yeah.
Woodward was the manager. And England had won the World Cup. So that was, he's spoken about this, that he nearly felt, geez, I'm going in here, these are the World Cup winners. But that evolution of being maybe a silky back to what he became was, I agree.
He was extraordinary. And I'll always remember him speaking about, he was asked the difference between, or what would he prefer? Would he prefer to be 4 points down in a game and to be last second 5 meters from the try line, ball comes to you? Would you prefer that scenario, or would you prefer to be 4 points up and defending against whoever, the All Blacks, about to go over the line in a World Cup final? And he said, absolutely, he saw himself as a defender, and he said he would absolutely choose to be 4 points up, keeping them out from the try line rather than to try create some magic up at the other end. It's just interesting the way he saw himself. He saw himself as a workhorse, and we all saw him as this incredibly talented magician. So he was fantastic, and came during a time, I think, in rugby where they'd gone from amateur to professional, and the status that the rugby team had gotten from over the last 20 years compared to the previous 20 years, and he was the figurehead of that. So
he was the major spark in that.
Yeah, it was, absolutely.
Yeah. Paddy, who was your idol? Probably a dub, is it?
Not a dub, actually. It's funny, I suppose when you're younger, I never rooted for the underdogs, lads. No, I was a Man United fan, loved watching Tiger Woods, Federer, just seeing excellence.
Yeah.
Guy dominating. It's incredible to watch that. But then I suppose as you get a bit older, and like I say, we've been fortunate to play elite sport in our own fields, and you see what it takes to play at that level and try and be successful. And I suppose, like when you're a kid growing up, it's Tiger Woods and all these guys, and when I'm 15, 16, 17 majors. But I think we've appreciation for guys. A big thing I would look at now is longevity and consistency, and mentally having the hungers. And honestly, guys like Andy Murray stands to mind, a guy whose body is just given up. But yet he's watching the Olympics there last year, he's literally hanging together. He's won majors, he's made all the money in the world, but his just passion to keep playing and competing at the highest level is incredible. Someone like O'Driscoll as well, Johnny Sexton playing the World Cup at 38.
Stephen Cluxton.
I'll throw a dub in, 42 years of age, to still, he's played 2 decades. Over 2 decades. Won all the titles, individual awards, obviously all Ireland titles, but he's still the man out there. The mentality to keep wanting to do that, it is incredible.
I was on the line with you when obviously he went away for 2 years. Dublin didn't win. He comes back and they win the All Ireland again. It's no coincidence that he's there. He's the orchestrator. He's the man who just, that jigsaw, that's the final piece where it's all together. He's been incredible. Probably you have to say he has been the most influential player in the game.
Maybe I'm biased, but I would, he's been incredible, fortunate enough to play with him, be a friend of mine, but what he's done for Dublin GAA, no more so we're talking about O'Driscoll with Leinster and Ireland, the progress and success of those teams, he's been fundamental to that. He's played over 2 decades, but we're all retired a few years now, lads, and we've lovely plush studio here, and it's nice, it's easier.
We're all younger now.
Yeah,
Except for you, man.
No, except for me,
But to still be, Tuesday nights, Thursday nights, getting the body hanging together, and the mentality and the fight to keep going. Because we know, playing at that level, you've got to have an edge. You've got to be a bit nasty. It's ruthless. And that's, when I look at sport now, and idols and people who just have massive respect for, I did it for 12 or 13 years. And I'm like, that was great, but I couldn't dream of doing that anymore. And you look at Sexton, Andy Murray, Cluxton, sure there's way more examples, but guys that keep going back to the well, decades, haven't had the success, haven't had all the plaudits, but still have that mentality to go back. I have a massive admiration for that, for players like that.
Unreal.
I think it's incredible.